Namaste everybody, I'm Tamal Dodge. This is Hallie, she'll be our demonstrator today. This is another class of Yoga for Absolute Beginners. We're going to go over some principles of doing back bends. And back bends aren't just cobra or up dog, but they happen everywhere. There's a bridge pose, bow pose, but there are certain commonalities you're going to find in each pose that we can kind of link together so it makes it more accessible and approachable. So to start with, Hallie's going to lay on her belly, setting up for a cobra. She'll plant her palms on the ground by her sides so that her wrists are directly underneath the elbows. So the arms may vary in the back bends, but remember, the things that are going to be the same are usually, of course, the back, but also things that have to do with the points of the knees towards the hips. So this whole section, knees to shoulders. The first thing we want to play with is making sure that our heels aren't knocking inward. Go ahead, knock them inward, and the toes outward. What this does is it clenches the glute muscles, compresses the sacrum area, and starts to make this a low back bend versus an upper back bend, and it becomes very crunchy. So we don't want any crunch unless it's Captain Crunch. So the heels move away from each other, and the toes draw a little bit inward. So the heels out. This is going to spin your inner thighs up towards the sky. So we're talking about doing a slight internal rotation of your legs. An external rotation would be the heels in, toes out. We want the toes in, heels out a little bit. So the inner thighs can create this spinning skyward. The next thing is she's going to take her tailbone and scoop it towards her inner thighs. And you want your pubic bone to press into the floor. Then on an inhale, she's going to lift her chest about 6 inches off of the ground. When she has spun her inner thighs to the sky and scooped the tailbone towards the floor, it articulates and translates more into an upper back bend. And that's the area we're trying to kind of target, because the upper back is the congested area. The low back already has too much mobility. And then she lowers down. So it's going to be kind of like musical mats here. She's going to flip onto her back. You can flip onto your back at home if you're with us. She just completely changed directions and positions too. Plant the palms on the floor by your sides. Bend your knees and bring your heels towards your butt. So the first pose we did was cobra. Now we're going to do a basic bridge pose. But I want you to see how things are so similar. And this is all going to be kind of a workout too, because holding these basic postures takes effort. So her legs are going to be hips width apart, okay? The toes turn slightly inward, just a fraction. Remember when you run your cobra and you're in your belly, the toes inward a little bit, heels out a little bit. Same thing here. She drives her palms into the floor. She lifts her hips up, not necessarily the height of the knees. Lift way too high, lift, lift, lift. This becomes, again, crunchy in the lower back. We want the hips slightly lower from your maximum. And this will enable her to, again, spin the inner thighs down now. Because remember, if you're on your belly, it's spinning the inner thighs up. But if you're in this position, you're spinning your inner thighs down. Same exact principle. The tailbone is going to scoop forward. Same thing as the cobra, that posterior tilt. So it's no longer a low back bend. We're looking to open up the upper spine. Something that happens here is how the chin wants to compress inward towards the sternum. You want to separate the chin from the chest just a little bit. A couple more breaths. Everyone thinks that when they're in a back bend, they want to fire and clench their glute muscles like, I don't know, they're trying to crack a walnut or something. We don't want to do that. You're going to just lightly firm the outer glutes in. Just a light engagement here. Because when we clench too much, it again is compressive. Take an inhale, lift a little more. Then exhale, come on down. You can open your feet wide for a moment and let your knees knock together. This will help soften any tension in the back. It's very stress relieving. Okay, so now Hallie's going to extend her legs straight out. Reaches her right arm up overhead, and she's going to roll back onto her belly. Musical mats today, I told you guys. So she's going to lay on her belly face down. She's going to have her arms extended back. So palms will face the floor. We're going to do something called locust or shalabhasana, which is another variation of back bending. Same principles apply though here. Inner thighs spin up. See, what we want in our yoga practice is how do we get the most out of the poses? How do we make it productive versus counterproductive, right? We don't want to just do a bunch of poses that are the wrong way and we're not soaking up the benefits and could be injurious. So inner thighs spin up, tailbone scoops down. Let the pubic bone press into the floor. You should notice that when the pubic bone presses, the low belly lifts. Now, on an inhale, she's going to lift her chest, head about 4 to 6 inches off the ground. Then her legs lift up off the ground. Then her hands lift. So she's fully suspended. She is carrying her entire body right there on her pelvis. But it's the same principles. The inner thighs are still working up. The tailbone is still driving and scooping down. So it's all upper back bend. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, release. Your back muscles will be sore tomorrow. The erector spinae, the multifidus. It's like the abs for your back. So she's going to reach her arms forward now. Her palms will face each other. So it's like she is karate chopping the outer edges of the hands, wrists, and forearms into the floor. Okay? Before we get into it, remember, we always prep. Inner thigh spin up. Tailbone scoops down. Pubic bone drives into the floor. Now she lifts her arms, her head, her chest, and her legs. This is also locust. It's just a variation of it. But what we're trying to do is show the commonalities. We're setting it all up for success versus failure. A couple more breaths. Told you there's work involved in this. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, release. So she's going to reach her arms back down her ribs. We're going to do a bow pose in a moment. If you have a hard time grabbing your ankles in this one, you can always get a yoga strap, or if you have like a long t-shirt or a towel you can wrap around your feet, that's also a nice option. So Hallie's going to bend her knees, reach back, grab a hold of the ankles. Again, this is where you'd loop a strap around the feet and you'd hold the strap or towel or shirt with the hands instead. The first thing she's going to do is drive the shin bones back, lift the head, lift the chest. But so we're not, again, crunching in the low back, compressing in the low back. She's going to dorsiflex her feet. She's going to spin her inner thighs up, tailbone scoops down. So even though these back bends are all looking like different shapes, they have the same principles that are going on here. So it's all this upper back bend we're creating. The sternum broadening, the collarbones widening, the front of the shoulders opening. A couple more breaths in your bow. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, come on down. That looks great. So she's going to place her hands by her short ribs like she's going to do a cobra again. Except this time we're going to play with the up dog. So it's the big version of cobra. It's the big brother. Notice the wrists are set up directly underneath the elbows. We're always looking to line things up appropriately. On an inhale, she peels her chest first as far away from the ground as she can until her arms are straight. Then she presses the tops of the feet into the floor until the quads lift, the knees lift, the hips lift. Now, most people, they want to dump into the lower back, so sink in heavy here in your lower back. Yes, like this. We don't want that. I want you to lift the quads, but what's really going to create the lift is taking your tailbone towards the inner thighs and then spinning the inner thighs up. You may not get as deep of a back bend as you normally would get, but it's more structurally sound. It's safer for the lumbar. Take a big inhale, then exhale. Come on down. Yes. Take a moment here. So, good news is we know how to do these things. Bad news is we're going to literally do all those poses quickly all over again. So wrists under the elbows. We're going to do cobra like we started with, okay? So inner thighs spin up, heels move away, tailbone scoops down, inhale, lift the chest 6 inches off the ground. It should be a mild back bend. This is great to do after you've done some core work. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, come on down. Okay, left arm stretches forward. Let's lay on your back, flip over. Musical mats. Bend your knees, set your feet on the floor, heels to the butt. Plant the palms. Let's inhale, lift the hips. So you can interlace your fingers underneath your back, maybe the opposite grip you did before, the awkward interlace. Start to scoop or tuck your shoulders underneath you. Check in with the most important aspects. Legs or hips with toes point forward or slightly inward. Inner thighs spin down, tailbone draws towards the space between your knees. So you're always doing that action. That's like a big exaggeration, but that's what we're doing. Take an inhale. And exhale, come on down. Stretch the legs out. The right arm extends overhead. We roll over onto your belly. It's like an interpretive dance we're doing today. Land your belly face down, arms reach down the ribs, palms face the floor. Inner thighs spin up. I know, I'm trying to ingrain this in everyone's head today. Tailbone scoops to the inner thighs. Inhale, lift the chest, the head, the arms, the legs. When we set up with this all being in our mind, taking it into consideration of how to set it up, you are going to have such amazing breakthroughs in your yoga practice. Everything's going to be structurally sound. And then lower down to the floor. Reach your arms forward. Palms face each other. Karate chop the outer edges of the wrists, forearms, elbows into the earth. Inner thighs spin up. Tailbone scoops down. Inhale, lift the chest, the head, the arms, the legs, holding all of that. Breathe. Looks fantastic. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, set it all down. Take your arms down the ribs. Bend your knees, reach back. You can use a towel, strap, or shirt, or you can hold onto the ankles if that's available. Drive the shin bones back. Chest lifts. Now, when you're here, the legs can still be hips width. You just don't want your knees splaying wide apart. Splayle the knees wide apart. Yeah, that's not good. That's all crunchy again. So inner legs closer together, even if you're not getting bigger. Bigger doesn't mean better. Like giant pose, but it's all out of alignment. It's not good. Inner thighs spin up, tailbone scoops down. Chest draws forward. Take a big inhale. Then exhale, let it all go. Last back bend. Place the hands underneath the elbows by your short ribs like you're about to do a cobra. Inhale, lift the chest as far away from the ground as you can until your arms are straight. Drive the tops of the feet into the floor till the thighs lift. Inner thighs work up, tailbone scoops down, even if it means that your hips lift more and more and more. Yep. And then you come on down. Let's come on to all fours, your hands and knees. Cross one ankle over the other. Sit behind your feet. You can scoot forward if you like. You can sit. Let's take your hands at prayer in front of the heart. Take a big inhale through the nose. Hold your breath. Let it go.